Welcome to Les Clés d'Imo, the keys to Imo. This is the first podcast aimed at the French-speaking community, but not only thanks to translation tools. Today then, about real estate, about the world of real estate, we will be welcoming brokers, lawyers, accountants, developers, rabbis, a bit of everyone who might interest us in this world of real estate. And today, for this first show, we have the chance to welcome Ornella Haggiage. I said Ornella Haggiage and not Haggiage. If you want to get off to a good start in the relationship with her, don't call her Haggiage. Her name is Haggiage. Hello, Ornella.
Hello, Harold.
How are you?
Great.
So, first, very simple question. Can you quickly introduce yourself in 2 sentences and explain to us what it is? A credit broker?
All right. So I'm Ornella Haggiage, as you said. I'm a mortgage broker in Israel. So I started out by getting a master's in banking and finance in Paris at the university. And then I gained over 15 years of experience in the banking sector, both in France and in Israel. So my role today is to support buyers by finding them the most suitable and advantageous financing while simplifying the process from start to finish, right up to the signing.
So, Ornella, I'm going to ask you the question you must get asked quite often. Maybe it's the tricky question. What's the difference between a broker and going directly to a bank?
That's a very good question. The bank, for its part, will sell its own products. The broker, on the other hand, will defend the interests of their clients. I, for example, will compare several banks. I'll explain all the possible options and I'll negotiate the best terms according to my client's profile. So, to sum up, the bank represents its own institution and I defend my client.
Are you saying that the bank, without making a bad pun, doesn't defend its client's interests?
The bank sells its products.
You don't want trouble, anyone?
No.
I understand. Okay. Do you want to tell us how you became a broker?
Yes, then.
Broker, female, or broker, female?
Broker.
Okay. So how did you become a mortgage broker?
So I started my career in banking in France, where there is a real relationship, a client-hotel relationship, where I really learned to analyze and understand my client's needs. And so that's truly a value you have when you work in banking in Paris. And after several years in this field, when I made Aliyah 10 years ago, I really noticed a lack of this in Israel, where the Israeli banking system is not at all the same as in France. And I really saw a gap in this area. Many clients found themselves lost during their first purchase, not knowing the conditions here for obtaining a loan, which are not at all the same as in France. All the variability in the files, the indexed rates, the variable rates, there isn't much of that in Paris. So there you have it. I really saw a gap in this area, and I said to myself that I had to get into it.
Okay, great. And do you remember your first case?
It's your very first client, right? Yes, my first case, of course, I remember it. It was a young family who contacted me from Jerusalem, who wanted to buy their first property. So it seemed complicated at first because in the beginning only the mother was working and the father was studying the Torah. So he had a small kollel salary. In terms of income, it didn't necessarily meet the bank's requirements. And after several weeks of searching, trying to find the best solution, the best contact, and the best combination, we managed to get them, after 2 weeks, their agreement in principle. And they were able to buy. And then when I saw the emotion on their faces, the smile on their lips during their first purchase, I really told myself that this is what I wanted to do.
What's the term agreement in principle? Remind us the name.
Mr. Ricroni?
Mr. Ricroni. This is the key document, even for real estate agents, to start their search, outline the budget and everything. Okay? We're going to talk about the core of your job and we'll see a little bit about how it unfolds on a daily basis. For example, concretely, what is your role, the exact role you play in a real estate transaction?
So my main role is to secure the financing for the project. So actually what I do is I act as the link between the client, the bank, the real estate agent, and the lawyer. So I analyze the borrowing capacity, I put together the application properly, and I advise my client on the different types of loans. I also support the client all the way to the signing so that there's no stress. So in a word, I make the process a bit smoother, safer, and I help the client feel more confident.
And actually not just the client, but all the collaborators involved, because the real estate agent at some point wants to work for something. If they offer properties to their client, but the client doesn't have the right budget, maybe they won't be happy either.
Exactly. It helps avoid a significant waste of time.
I'm going to ask you a question about mistakes, the most common mistakes. What is the most common mistake buyers make?
The most common mistake buyers make is looking for a property before checking their actual budget. I have a lot of clients who call me who have already signed a preliminary sales agreement without having secured their financing.
When you say actual budget, you mean the real budget they would have available?
Exactly, their borrowing capacity.
All right.
Because there are clients who look for properties at 3 million when they can only borrow 2 million. Some have even signed preliminary agreements and lost their deposits. I have a client just 2 weeks ago who lost a 10,000 shekel deposit on a property because he couldn't borrow that much. So really, I always advise consulting a broker right from the start to know exactly how much you can borrow and avoid any unpleasant surprises.
And the opposite is true. Sometimes people, like at Jean Immobilier, search for property but miss out on one over 200,000 or 300,000 shekels. This is significant, but sometimes it's just a matter of 4 to 5% of the total budget. And if they had seen a broker, they might have been able to look a bit more broadly.
Exactly, to get it and really have all your financing options available, because that way it can be revised downward or upward as well.
Okay, that's interesting. What you're saying, is it still possible to negotiate real rates today? Are there still good rates? Because let's be honest, we hear about abysmal rates, not to say catastrophic ones.
Of course, that's the whole point of our job. Even though the market is changing today, as we can see everywhere in Israel, a good broker will know how to present a file to the banks and get the best possible terms. And thanks to my experience up to now, I know exactly which levels to pull with the banks, how to talk to them, how to speak the bank's language to defend my client's interests and get the best offer.
And the best interest rate.
Exactly the best rate, but I'm not just talking about rates because there's really a whole structure behind it.
All right.
A lot of clients call me, what rate can I get? But it's not just about the rates. There's a real structure behind it. Some people can't borrow with a payment of 7,000 shekels, while others can handle payments of 100,000 shekels. It's really a whole structure behind it. It's not just about the rate.
All right, okay. Today, you explained to us a bit about how you work with all the real estate partners on a transaction. Now, concretely, what happens when you work with a real estate agent? The first step is that the agent calls you, or it's the client. How do you work a bit with real estate agents?
Well, I really believe in collaboration and teamwork, especially in Israel, where it's super important. So the agent will find the property. At the same time, I will secure the financing and the lawyer will finalize everything. I think that when there is real teamwork and good communication about the case, we move forward much faster and without stress, and we open many doors for the clients, all with trust and transparency. I have a small example. About a month ago, a client called us who was coming to Israel for a week and wanted to buy a property. So, in 1 week, we had to find the financing, find the right property, and finalize the contract by signing the sales contract. That seems very, very tight. But we managed to pull it off with the real estate agent, the credit coach, myself, and the lawyer.
Great. So where does this gentleman live now?
He still lives in Paris, but he bought his property in Netanya, where he can now come and stay peacefully. Wow.
Okay. Your job is evolving with AI, like all jobs nowadays, I imagine. And what do you think about online comparison tools? Do they scare you? Do you see them as a tool or as competition?
Not at all. Really, quite the opposite. Personally, I see that technology is evolving, it's advancing, but it will never replace humans. Comparison tools will give us numbers, we'll get rates, but they'll never understand the situation, the exceptions, or my client's life projects. They won't know, for example, if my client is about to be hired on a permanent contract or if they are just in a trial period or regarding their salary. We know they're about to receive a large sum from an inheritance. The comparison tool will just look at the rates. Me, I really take everything into account. I adapt the file, I listen, I give advice. And it's really this human aspect that makes all the difference compared to AI today.
You really look at everything, the environment, the ecosystem, the life project, and you'll be able to better defend your client's interests. Would you like to tell us about it? Maybe an anecdote, a situation where your involvement made a difference?
Yes, actually, recently I was contacted by a client who lives in France. He is currently a French tax resident, but he made his Aliyah 10 years ago. His dream is to come back, but his condition is to have a property in Israel before returning to Israel. The thing is, he went to all the banks and they would only give him 50% financing.
Because he's Israeli?
Because he's a French tax resident, an Israeli tax resident, so he's considered a foreigner. French? That means, in fact, he's only entitled to 50% financing and not to 75% like an Israeli tax resident. even if he had a Teudat Oleh before, even if he made Aliyah 10 years ago. So after several phone calls, there you go, we try to find the best solution. I succeeded. Afterwards, I found a contact at a bank that would give him 75% financing. He was able to buy his property, and now he's going to make his Aliyah properly right away.
Mazel tov. Great. And is it that you don't have to answer, but you can answer? Is there a time, an anecdote? Do you have an anecdote to tell us where things didn't go as you wished?
An anecdote where things didn't go as I wished?
You can use a joker if you want.
Listen, so far at Regem, I've never had, because I really tried to analyze the case from the very beginning. So, well, up to now, it's always gone the way you and the client wanted.
That is to say, if you really think right from the start that there is, in quotes, no feasibility at all at that moment, you prefer to postpone working with your client and tell them things clearly, rather than presenting a case where disappointment is guaranteed. So,
well, right from the start, when I see that it's not feasible, I help the client find another direction toward a solution. They come back to see me in a month, 2 months, or 3 months to properly prepare their case, and then at that point, it becomes feasible. So that's why I don't start the case right away. I don't waste the client's time. I prepare them thoroughly for 2 months, 3 months, even up to a year if needed, and then they come back, and as a result, the case goes through. Well, I'm there 100% of the time.
bravo, you answered without using the joker card. That's impressive. Okay, let's move on to the pro tip. What advice would you give to someone looking for a mortgage today?
So my advice is not to sign anything before checking your budget with a professional. A good broker can save you time and money, and it can also help you avoid mistakes that could be very costly. As I mentioned earlier, I've had clients who handed over 10,000 euro deposit checks without checking their borrowing capacity. And it's super important not to sign anything before checking your budget. The goal is to move forward with confidence, to have a clear plan like I told you, and to avoid mistakes. Because when you submit files to banks and they get rejected, it always leaves a bad mark on your record.
I'd like to add a little real estate touch. It's the same with real estate agents. When we have a partner or a client who wants to visit properties, we often ask them, what's the person's budget so we can show them suitable properties? And we also ask if they've already seen a broker or a bank, if they have something concrete in hand to save them from wasting time. Now, that doesn't mean we can't show you properties during this period when your financing file is being put together in parallel, but it's more to get a sense of your needs, meaning to find out what kind of environment you like, what type of property appeals to you. But then the property has to stay on the market during that period. And so personally, I don't like disappointing people by showing them properties that might not stay on the market, since they would only get their financing approval later on. So there you have it. That was just a little. In that sense, I'll get back to you. From when should you consult a mortgage broker?
As early as possible. Ideally, as soon as you start thinking about buying. This allows you to lay the financial groundwork, explore credit options, and be ready to act as soon as you find the right property. That's it. Especially in Israel, where properties can be sold very quickly, sometimes even in a single day. I've already seen many people who missed out right away. If you know before buying how much you're allowed to borrow, as soon as you get an offer, you can jump on it. You can be responsive, quick to act. Exactly.
Great. Quick technical question. What are the documents that people most often forget to give you?
Well, it seems really simple.
Their Bitcoin account statement.
There you go. No, not Bitcoin.
All right, tell us then.
Well, it's mostly the bank statements. It seems really simple, up-to-date proof of income, but that's often what causes the most delays. You should know that in banks, having a complete file is really the key to getting a faster and more positive response. If it
is missing document, they placed it at bottom of pile.
You might get an answer in a month, by which time the need has already passed.
We're here. I want to ask you questions that people don't dare ask. Their broker, or even worse, you talk to your bank. But sometimes you hear about shopkeepers, people who have saved up retirees, or shopkeepers who have sometimes saved up sums in cash. How do you justify these amounts? Is it possible? Are there solutions for these people? Maybe we'll ask a lawyer or an accountant about it a bit later in the day as well. That's my first question. And then I'll ask you a second question afterwards.
So cash It's true that 10 or 15 years ago, you used to hear about a lot of people coming to buy with cash. The bank was, in a way, somewhat involved, so to speak. Today, they've really changed. They really want proof for that cash now. When it was withdrawn in France, where did it come from? What was sold? So it's become very complicated to buy with cash nowadays.
All right.
The solutions are complicated unless you have a way to justify it.
Okay. So concretely, someone who won a sum at the casino and could prove it, that's one way to justify it, of course.
Of course. Of course, at the casino, that's a clear way to have received it.
This video is not sponsored by Anguen, Patouche, or any other casinos. But there you go. Okay.
So yes, if you can justify it, you can buy with cash. But again, you need a real justification for the banks. And then there are some banks that accept it more than others. That's where other roles come into play.
I have another question for you. I've heard from talking with a broker that sometimes people would present him with documents from France. It's a bit shaky, a bit borderline, maybe even fake. Something that's, personally, I wouldn't know how to verify. How do banks today verify documents from foreign buyers? Do they have solutions, or is it really the Wild West?
So that too was very common 10 or 15 years ago. We used to hear about a lot of people making fake documents. Now it's become very complicated. Just a week ago, the prefecture contacted me again to tell me that they really check all the documents. I also check using the QR code. They check it too. For example, French tax notices have a QR code on them. They check it. Really, Israel and France, it's a true partnership now when it comes to taxes and all that. So it's becoming very complicated to make fake documents. It's very complicated. Because after that, if someone makes a fake document, they end up blacklisted by the bank. And to get a loan after that, you'll have to get up pretty early.
And I imagine that it also damages your good relationship with the bank. You have a responsibility, a bit of research, some checking.
Exactly. That's why I tell my clients, really, you have to give us the truth, tell me everything. If there have been any missing incidents on your accounts, you need to give me all the details so that afterwards, with that, I can put together your file and get the loan properly. I'd rather fight for you with the truth than try to cover things up. I've had several cases like that where clients didn't tell me everything. When it comes time for the loan, it's the bank that brings up an unpaid debt from 3 years ago or 4 years ago, or a bounced check in Israel. Even a bounced check for 2,000 shekels from 3 years ago has blocked me today. Now, if you tell me about it beforehand, I can go to the banks with my negotiation fully prepared and it goes through smoothly. But if you find out about it afterwards, it's much more complicated to get a loan.
Let me tell you a little story about this. I hadn't originally planned on it, but exactly 7 years ago, my wife and I were personally and unexpectedly denied crucial financing for our home because of an overdraft in Israel on an account we had opened when we made Aliyah, the first account to receive the Oleh Hadash assistance. It was an account we had opened in Tel Aviv at a neighborhood bank. We had forgotten about this account, except that in the meantime, the assistance had stopped, and the account went into the red because of the fees. And the bank, I won't name it because we've made up since then, the bank, for an overdraft of a symbolic amount, maybe 180 shekels overdrawn, and they followed up with us. We got a penalty and they blacklisted us, and we weren't even granted an appointment to apply for a loan.
They did the same thing to him with a car loan of 100,000 shekels. The person had simply failed to convert their money from euros to shekels in the correct account. She had a very small overdraft. They refused the car loan, and as a result, he lost the offer for the car down payment. We managed to find him in our bank. We gave him the loan as needed, and we really caught up just in time.
Okay, hence the critical importance of being completely transparent with your trusted broker and with the financial institution, but also having very strong, well-reasoned arguments from the experienced broker as well.
Because he didn't tell me at first, he didn't mention that he had a very small overdraft, because for him it was trivial, just a small overdraft. I just hadn't transferred the money from the euro account to the broker's account, but that's what ended up blocking things at the bank.
Super interesting. Do you have a vision for your profession in 5 years? Do you have an idea of where it's headed or how you see things developing?
I think it will become more digital, but it will always remain human. There will still be a need for that support. The tools will evolve, but clients will always need support, trust, someone who understands their situation, who gives them kind advice, who understands their project, and who adapts to their needs. That's it.
It's funny, sometimes I feel like I'm listening to a psychologist talk. You do a lot of psychology as a broker.
You have to support them. You have to help them when they're stressed. When they get to the signing stage, they're stressed. They don't know what to do. There's a lot of psychology involved, a lot of support. It's not just about numbers and calculations. That's only at the very beginning, the structuring part. But after that, we're there for them from the start to the end of the process.
If you had to sum up your job in one word or a phrase, go ahead, treat yourself.
As I told you, it's support. Because beyond the numbers, it's a job of the heart, of listening, and of commitment. For me, it's truly a pleasure to support people who want to buy, especially in Israel, where it's really a mitzvah today. When I help clients buy in Israel, especially clients coming from France, it's a real pleasure for me because I support them from A to Z in their projects and seeing the smile on their faces afterwards. And for me, as a Jew who fulfills the mitzvah of buying in Israel, I am very satisfied. I have a
little book here. It's called Spark of Wisdom by Rav Avram Sibon. I'm not related, we just have the same last name. Would you like to choose for us? A little quote. In your time, there was no rush, and they are not in a hurry either.
I really like the Baal Shem Tov. There is no solitary life in the world. Wherever a person is, Hashem is with him. I love it.
All right, everyone, we are now going to carefully and clearly show this particular item directly to the camera. Can you see it? Where exactly is it? That specific one I'm holding. Ah, there you finally go, perfectly in frame for everyone to observe. There are no solitary people. Can you see it well? Ah, well, great. A little bit of free publicity for the book while we're at it. It's a gift. It's really great. And to finish, what's your limo key to wrap things up?
So my little limo key, which I want to give to all real estate agents, is to always listen to your clients' needs before giving them any advice. Because every project is unique, it's a life project, and it's by truly understanding the person that you can open the door to their future home, where they'll feel their best.
Great, great. Do you want to add anything?
Listen, it was a real pleasure for me today.
Well done, you did really well. The whole team is behind you too. Let's thank them. It was a first. I hope you'll like this format. We're going to do more. And if you want to be on the show, just send us a quick message. We're open to everyone, whether you're also a broker from Courtier Renteli, whether you're a developer, lawyer, expert, or architect. Nice. Gardeners, pool specialists, all the professions that are connected to real estate, whether directly or indirectly, and can help people settle in, interest us. You are all welcome, and we would be delighted to ask you questions in a friendly manner. See you
Soon.